Hey kids, you're about to listen to a comedy podcast. That means that none of this is medical advice. If you need medical advice and medical care, please contact your doctor.
Welcome to the Jock podcast featuring Dr. London Smith, aka the realest podcast under the sun. The day we stop keeping it real, we're done.
Hello, and welcome to the Jock podcast, where we discuss fitness and health and how to incorporate our modern understanding of science and medicine into our daily lives, but without it being so boring. I'm your host, Dr. LondonSmith.com. I would like to begin by apologizing to our listeners. We've received some feedback about the excessive amount of technical medical terms that I've been using, such as pubic symphysis diastasis and inauguration day. So I will try to temper my terminology to a simpler one in the future. Here to help with that is our producer, Cameron.
Hey, Dr. London. I'm not feeling it.
You aren't?
Dr. London, I need like a little, shot of energy or something. I'm just not. I can be like, hey, but it's not real, you know?
Yeah, okay, and we all kind of have these.
What did I tell you when we started this podcast? One thing that I refuse to never do.
Yeah, it's
be not real.
You said that okay. That and like
I refuse to never not be real.
You also said you don't work weekdays or weekends. You said nothing like during the day hours, and you get really tired at night, so probably not then either.
Well, yeah, not at nighttime. It's too dark also to navigate.
Yeah, the light up screens that we use. Mm-hmm. So that's what you told me then. These were all your conditions, and it has made it pretty difficult to schedule any.
Yeah, I take off all holidays regardless of religion.
Yeah.
All Jewish holidays, Muslim holidays, etc.
And it seemed like you really worked hard on creating new religions to give you more holidays.
Well, I don't create. I feel like this is a misconception. Does the person who leads a religion necessarily create the religion? I just do my own stuff. I just focus on what I want to do and like hanging out and stuff. And if people start following me naturally, that's not my fault. I didn't tell them to do that.
That what makes it seem the most suspicious is, like I said, like
how many holidays there are.
First thing you do is make holidays. That's like before you establish the basic tenets of your religion. It's always about the holidays.
Yeah, and it's just like every Friday is the holidays.
Yeah, and Mondays, because you said, I hate Mondays, but then Tuesday started feeling like a Monday, so the next religion you made really started making Tuesday
hammering in on Tuesdays, had sort of an anti-Tuesday agenda, yeah.
Yeah, and, eventually just the amount, and like we try to be very inclusive, and, we try to keep out of religion on the podcast, which is why this hasn't come up before, but I just, to some extent, it has become problematic. Do you see?
So I just ask you for just like a shot of energy to get me feeling it, and then you start hounding me about my religious beliefs. This is the show that you want to do, Dr. London?
Okay, and yeah, I'm sorry. No, I apologize. That is on me. I shouldn't be so critical of your many religions. Mm-hmm. Because whenever you say religious beliefs, just so the listener is aware that there is a lot of plurality in there. Like, it's a lot of religions and a lot of beliefs that also strongly contradict each other.
Yeah, and are mostly holiday oriented.
Yeah, well, almost entirely. Yeah, like a few of them, you also have to eat a bunch.
Yeah.
Like, you just, like, early, you have ice cream before dinner is part of one of them, as I recall. Yeah. And I just, but once again,
there was a big like burger and fries based one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and milkshakes, and I'm just, I'm not sure that's. It basically just, I guess, like any sort of supervisor position type, someone who has to manage the time, it has been difficult to do scheduling around it, and so to some extent, I couldn't use these same religious excuses at my place of work, at the hospital, because they they don't recognize all of it quite the same way you do.
When this podcast started, I told you that I would never not be real. Isn't that right? That's because I'm real, and I'm just being real, and I'm just telling you honestly, Dr. London, I'm just not feeling it today.
Okay, so you want to go back and emphasize how you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
Because I thought
I want you to, like, give me a reason to be excited for this.
Okay.
Inject some energy into my veins. I'm giving you a job.
Okay, so...
Sorry if you're not familiar with those.
Okay, well, as I said, that, my job actually strongly requires me to show up and do the work. But, so anyway, this is... maybe I should sound more excited. This is our producer, Cameron.
Yay!
All right.
That didn't do it.
And then also with us is Digital in the House. Digital in the House.
When this podcast started, I told you that I would never not be real. Isn't that right?
Yes.
That's because I'm real, and I'm just being real, and I'm just telling you honestly, Dr. London, I'm just not feeling it today.
The realest podcast under the sun.
The day we stop keeping it real, we're done.
What did I tell you when we started this podcast? One thing that I refuse to never do. Be not real.
One thing that I refuse to never do.
We're done.
Be not real.
We're done.
One thing that I refuse to never do. Be not real.
And later, Cameron tells me that we can expect a special guest, a physician. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Dr. London.
And so it's a doctor who's come up with a new way to administer medicine to patients. We're always trying to bring the cutting edge, the new medical news and technology.
Yeah. And we're always trying to come up with new medicines.
Yeah, I mean,
as a show.
Yes.
So, and we aren't usually quite as involved in the clinical research aspect, but sure, any chance to bring in a new way to address these clinical syndromes is always, something to look out for. Before we move on, I would like to address a bit of listener feedback. I found this note nailed onto a piece of wood that a patient was trying to fend me off with as I was advising him on his diabetes medication regimen. The note reads, quote, "How did you get that picture in the cake? ... Witchcraft." End quote. So first of all, thank you so much for your insightful question here on the Jock podcast. To answer your question, so Cameron, I think they may be referring to your preferred method of cutting cakes, which is with a framed picture. So I guess this listener's question would be, is witchcraft involved in that process?
Well, it's the only way to get a perfect rectangle slice.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'd always kind of been in the other room whenever you do it. So you don't just use the smaller diameter edge. You use...
No. I'm not cutting it with the corners. I take a small picture frame that doesn't have a picture in it. I put it on the cake, flat side, and then I just push it all the way through.
Yeah, and then you eat that, and like you sort of...
What's left in the middle is a perfectly rectangle slice of cake. And if you've ever watched Chef's Table or Top Chef or Chef's Reunion or The Chef Zone or Chef Island or The Chef Pack or the John's Chef Hut,
I haven't.
or the chef cauldron, or if you've ever seen like chefs in the jungle, then you would know that a perfectly rectangle slice of cake is the ultimate sign of a good chef.
How the cake is cut is what tells. So not the ingredients, not the flavor, not the consistency.
No, because presentation tells the audience that I put a lot of work into this and that I care about the product. I could make the best tasting pancakes in the world, but if I gave it to you and it wasn't in the shape of, let's say, like your favorite character from, I don't know, let's say News Radio. Let's say you didn't have a pancake in the shape of Andy Dick from News Radio. Wouldn't that piss you off? And wouldn't that taste awful?
I feel like
Because presentation is key.
Okay, I don't watch all these shows, so maybe I'm unaware.
And if you ever watch The Chef Murderer, you would know that.
Yes.
Okay, and once again, I just, this is a different territory. For me, I'm thinking to myself, regardless of the shape, whenever I bite into something, the flavor is going to be a big determinant with, to tell me how much I like something, or consistency as well. But I'm, once again, not a chef. So this...
Oh, we've got consistency.
You mean in terms of shape?
No, just in terms of mouthfeel. Like, the cake is going to feel like a lot going on.
Okay. Are you referring to, like...
We make it bumpy. We make it very I make very lumpy cakes is kind of what I'm trying to get at.
Okay. Okay, and that's... So whenever this listener was asking about the witchcraft using cakes, but your answer is essentially that you make it really lumpy.
Yeah, and then I use the picture frame.
Okay. All right, well, now for today's medical topic, Cor Pulmanale. So Cor Pulmanale is defined as a right ventricular hypertrophy with eventual right ventricular failure resulting from pulmonary hypertension secondary to pulmonary disease. So if you need a refresher on pulmonary hypertension, listen to last week's episode, and Cor Pulmanale is a complication of that. So it's just whenever your lungs have the high pressure system going on. It's high blood pressure, but only within the lungs specifically. So if that goes on too long, then you get Cor Pulmanale. It's most commonly secondary to COPD, and other causes include recurrent pulmonary embolism, asthma, cystic fibrosis, sleep apnea, and pneumoconiosis. Clinically, patients may present with a decrease in exercise tolerance. They may have cyanosis and digital clubbing, and that's whenever the fingers get to be thicker, like kind of bulbs at the end of the finger.
I mean, this doesn't get boring to you, Dr. London? Week in and week out, typing in ian.wikipedia.org and then clicking random article and just reading it off on the show. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well,
this isn't bumming you out a little bit. I'm just in a mood.
Yeah, no, I can tell because you seem to be really. Every time I feel like we're really getting somewhere, like we're kind of hitting our stride, you keep interjecting with saying that you're not feeling it.
That I'm in a mood. Yeah.
That you're bored. So
I would say that almost, so your job as a doctor is to cure patients, and yet you're not even willing to try to cure your best friend and co-host and producer.
Okay, what if...
Cure him of the blues.
What if I tried... Okay, so normally sometimes you would interject with something here. So what I just said was digital clubbing.
You think that I should give a lesson and then you interject my lesson?
No, I'm letting you know sort of the way that you seem to keep yourself occupied normally. So a lot of times, if I said something like digital clubbing, then you would say something about maybe going on your computer, digitally, and going clubbing, like going dancing, maybe, and that's...
Yeah, or like Club Penguin.
Yeah.
That'd be something.
Yeah, so today, it just seems odd, because today you seem to not have the energy, or not, maybe even, it's just the desire. You seem to have lost the desire to do any of that, but...
It's the passion. I have no passion anymore. But I'd love to do your job and then you interrupt me. So let's go. I'm on Wikipedia. I'm clicking random article.
Okay, I don't think that's...
Okay, I got Stourbridge, which is a market town in the West Midlands, England. Stourbridge is about 12 miles or 9 kilometers west of Birmingham, the second biggest city in the UK. And I think Fox News one time said Birmingham was a Muslim no-go zone. This was about 8 years ago, but I think that's important to mention. Sitting within the metropolitan borough of Dudley at the edge of the Black County, Stourbridge includes the suburbs of Amblecote, Lye, Norton, Old Winsford, Pedmore.
So Cameron,
What?
I can't help but feel like this is one of those instances of something that is neither here nor there. Like, it's very unrelated to the topic.
Yeah, it's not here. We know it's in England.
Yeah, and
we know it's about 12 miles west of Birmingham, which, according to a guy on Fox News 8 years ago, and they got in trouble for it, they said Birmingham, which is the second biggest city in the UK, was a Muslim no-go zone.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, and I'm not really contesting or commenting on that. I just, I've got to... So our listeners are here for medical lessons. They're just trying to learn medicine. We got medical students. We have, doctors who are trying to brush up on a few things.
I don't. My fans aren't these people.
You're talking about your cam girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
cam squad, the squad of cam girls, aka my fan base, does not care about medicine whatsoever. You know what we care about? We care that much of Stourbridge consists of residential streets interspersed with green spaces. Mary Stevens Park opened in 1931, has a lake, a bandstand, a cafe, and a mixture of open spaces and woodland.
Okay, great, but so do you see? So I've got to finish this up for. Okay, so you have your fans and I have my fans. So if I could finish my appeal to my fans,
you're saying we should read them at the same time and then
DJ
split the audio into different ears.
Look, we've tried that, and I do not think it worked.
Nah.
So anyway, if I'll just try to be quick about this, okay? So that you can get to your cam girl stuff, because I know that they're big on this. So as I said, clinically, patients may have digital clubbing was the last thing I said. They can have signs of right ventricular failure, such as hepatomegaly, edema, and JVD, and that's whenever the vein in the neck is dilated, it's big, and they can have a parasternal lift. Diagnosis of Cor Pulmanale begins with chest X-ray revealing enlargement of the right atrium, right ventricle, and pulmonary arteries. An EKG may reveal right axis deviation, P pulmonale, and that's peaked P waves, and right ventricular hypertrophy. An echocardiogram may reveal right ventricular dilatation, but normal left ventricular size and function. So this is useful in excluding the left ventricular dysfunction. So this is right-sided stuff. So treatment involves treating the underlying pulmonary disorder. Diuretic therapy must be used cautiously because patients may be preload dependent. You apply continuous long-term oxygen therapy if the patient is hypoxic. Administer digoxin only if there is coexistent left ventricular failure. Many COPD patients die of right ventricular failure secondary to chronic pulmonary hypertension, and many deaths due to.
Yeah, I actually met a guy who suffered from that. Unfortunately, we met at the Festival of Glass, which the International Festival of Glass is held at Ruskin Mill in Stourbridge every 2 years. Launched in 2004, it showcases the skill and innovation of glass artists, designers, and craftspeople. The British Glass Biennial is the festival's... It's not biannual.
Okay.
It's biennial. Is the festival's flagship exhibition featuring contemporary work by glassmakers in the UK. The exhibition attracts collectors, galleries, and museums from all around the world.
Wow, okay, so I like how you did try to work that in casually. I do appreciate that.
Oh, it just came up, yeah.
It was just natural in conversation. So just the last sentence here I want to finish. So many deaths due to pulmonary embolism actually result from acute pulmonary hypertension and right ventricular failure. Okay, and so Cameron, did you get everything to appease your fans, the cam girls?
Yeah, well, just one thing I did want to ask is that I had heard that Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin actually attended King Edward VI College, which is in Stourbridge. Would you say that's correct in your personal medical opinion?
I don't really have a professional medical opinion on that fact. Mostly 'cause that sounds like a trivia question, really. So, and it's not medical related, not related to medicine. So I'm not, I don't see how that would apply.
Yeah, you haven't gotten to that part of your training, is what you're saying.
You know what? Sure. And once again, I am seeing some divide here between the Cameron.
Don't you hear? Don't you hear how much more excited I am?
Yeah. No, I am glad that you haven't brought us back to telling us about how you're done and bored and don't care anymore.
Yeah, and over it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that.
Now I love life. I love this podcast, and I love Stourbridge.
All right.
Or Storebridge.
Sure.
There's no way to know how it's pronounced.
There wouldn't be a way. But maybe our guest will know.
No way.
Anyway, we can go ahead and move on from there. All right, Cameron, you said that we have a guest today. Is that right?
That's right, Dr. London. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but this might be one of the fastest guests we've ever had. I haven't seen this guy run, but you can kind of look at his figure and kind of figure out that he's probably pretty quick.
Okay, so
in terms of just speed, not like wit or anything like that, just physical speed.
Okay, so it's like, the fast muscle fibers. Okay. So as I was saying earlier, the guest is one of these types who's like sort of bringing something new to medicine, and we all like to see these innovations. So
yeah,
I'm pretty excited for this guest. Could you introduce yourself, please, Doctor?
Doctors, thanks for having me on. This is Dr. Bill Butler Yeast here, and thank you for acknowledging my muscle fibers. I've been working on them for quite some time. When you folks flew me in for this and put me up in such a nice hotel, I mean, you were putting me in a hotel so far away, but so easy to run from there to here. It was really nice to do that, Doctor. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, we're working with a budget here, and so you have the options of you could get a much worse hotel, much closer to the studio, or we could put you in a nicer hotel further away that you can just run to, and then, we're not going to pay for transportation or anything like that, of course. Well,
and I would say, when Cameron chose to put you in, because Cameron was really handling the bookings and everything, it was a mile difference. So I know for running, it seems far. But, for most people who are from here and who are used to, using their own car as transportation, it's actually, this is the first time someone hasn't complained about it, about the lack of transportation and everything. But anyway, so thank you so much for coming here. I should correct one thing. Cameron here is not a doctor. I'm actually the doctor here. So
I realize that, but I think I believe in treating everyone who contributes to the medical profession as an equal. So in my eyes, Cameron,
wow,
you're a consultant, but a doctor is suffice, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're a junior doctor, you're a consultant, or you're the CEO. You're a doctor.
This is amazing. I love hearing this, that you actually approach medicine with a sort of egalitarian attitude, whereas Dr. London, he is all about hierarchies. He is all about who is whose boss, who is bossing around so-and-so, who's giving instructions, am I in charge? I love hearing that. Look, because I contribute to medicine, which I do, that sort of makes me a doctor. And if anything, that makes me more of a doctor than someone who just got a degree and never helps anyone, like Dr. London. Wouldn't you say?
I totally. Do you know? This is exactly the problem the medical profession has. Ask any doctor. Well, let's ask, doctor, who is the most important person in the medical hierarchy?
Ooh, I want to hear this from you, Dr. London.
So the most important person, it really depends. I mean, at a certain level, the most important person's going to be the medical assistants and the nurses, because they're the ones who are kind of the first ones the patient encounters. But then again, the doctor is the one who kind of has the knowledge to guide the whole process. So, I feel like everyone has their worth, but, at least in the States, the pay is given, a little bit more according to training level and everything, if that's what you mean.
Wrong.
Absolutely wrong. I'd say Dr. London.
Dr. Butler Yeast, could you explain why he was so wrong?
I mean, Dr. London, I'm so grateful to be here, but this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're clearly the eldest in your family, and were very greedy as a child, and that has fed into your life now as a medical professional. The most important person in the medical profession is clearly the patient, because without the patient, you don't have an opportunity to doctor. And without an opportunity to doctor, you can't make a difference in the world. So every single patient, whether they come in with a stub toe or a life-threatening illness, without them, we can't be doctors. And it doesn't matter if you're wearing a stethoscope around your neck or you're holding the door open for somebody who's coming out of the restroom. It all counts if there's a patient there.
Okay.
And do you know how much?
I would even.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you know how much we pay patients? Nothing, zero. They don't get anything to be part of that hierarchy. With all due respect.
And I would even say patients contribute to the medical practice even more than doctors, because A, you wouldn't have doctors without patients. B, doctors, their entire expertise is finding out what's wrong with you. Well, a patient can tell you how they're feeling, where it hurts, what's swelling, all very important pieces of information that make them more useful than whatever the doctor is going to find. I would say that every single patient is a doctor, wouldn't you say?
I completely agree. Let me hit you with some very interesting statistics. So they say 1 in 4 people will get cancer, for example. But did you know that every one of those 4 people is technically a patient? Because they're at some point in their life going to need the facilities of the medical profession. And you can't be part of that hierarchy unless you have a patient to put you there.
Okay, so could we take it one step further and say that because every person is a patient in their own way, everyone is the most important, and then doctors have the doctor education on top of that regular patient level importance? So,
no, it sounds like actual doctors are the one exception. I would say patients are the doctors, and in a way, doctors are the patients.
It's all ego. You see, Dr. London, that is ego speaking. I mean, I don't go to dinner parties and say to people, oh, by the way, I'm a doctor. No, I don't. I'm a human being first.
And if you do say that, sometimes that's okay.
Sometimes, but that's only when there is willy waving going on, and it's a point. Mm-hmm. It's a point of clarity. But I say to you, Dr. London, when, for example, is the last time you had affetous stomatitis, for example?
I don't believe that I've had that.
You see? What are you contributing to the profession that is lining your driveway with all of those cars?
So,
yep.
If you ask just a random medical disease, that sort of doesn't quite make your case. If you ask for something like, relatively more common, like, do you have high blood pressure or diabetes, or since we're from the States, obesity, these kinds of things are a little bit more, common in that way. Do you see how there's a distinction to be made there?
I totally do, Doctor. But do you have any of those 3, as you say, common ailments? I mean, I don't come across them that much, I have to say. But have you got one of those 3 ailments?
No, I don't. And I get that you come from a different place where epidemiologically you'd be, encountering maybe less, well, especially the obesity epidemic is bad here, not so much there. The opioid epidemic, probably not as big of a deal there, just because, our culture has shaped
Y'all
so
are
much.
Cooler about it.
Yeah, so...
Y'all are a lot more chill about opioids, and so, like, that, quote-unquote epidemic that we have is probably going to be less of a big deal. But I feel like this is all sort of beside the point, right, Dr. London?
That's true. So, Dr. Yeast, what brings you here today?
Well, I was going through a midlife crisis when I was in my 20s, and I realized that I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was something inherently wrong with how we doctor. And then it just hit me. It hit me. We're working within a niche market. We are totally relying on medicine to cure ailments. It's like every time you get sick, we immediately go to medicine to cure it, or some form of medicine, be it physical as in a pill or mental as in therapy or what have you. It all falls under the same umbrella. And that made me think, if I was building my house, I wouldn't hire an electrician to build it, to plumb it, to pick my furniture. I'd have different people from different backgrounds doing it. But why is it? Why is it when we're sick we only go to a doctor and we only go to a hospital? Specialists.
You think you're special now? It's not just enough that you're educated, Dr. London, and that you're better than everyone else. Now you consider yourself special?
Well, I feel like you're going down this road of, not all doctors are trained. And we have one like baseline.
I know not all doctors are trained because every single patient is a doctor and training is irrelevant.
Okay, I'm sorry, Dr. Yeast. Go on. I interrupted.
So anyway, and that made me realize that perhaps we're looking in the wrong places for cures. We often think about managing illnesses, but when are we putting that patient first? When I have a patient that comes into me with transient lingual palpititis, if I give them a pill, they're going to take the pill, walk away. And where is the value add in that? Where's the experience?
Yeah, they're going to walk away thinking, this guy doesn't care about me. He's just throwing drugs at me.
Exactly. And we have to think about, medical prescriptions as a service and not as a product. So I did a community college course in poetry. And as I was in this course, I realized that poets had one thing in common. We remember them for their poems and not for their illnesses. And that got me thinking that with the right string of words, because words are very much like chemicals. If you string them together, you can have an impact because you can create something that carries meaning. In the same way, if you mix chemicals together, you get a pill, and that has a meaning. And meaning is just a different word for cure. And on that basis, I found that by stringing certain words together in a poetic sense, poetry is an anagram. It's not an anagram, but it would be an anagram for solution to medical ailment, give or take a few letters. And I figured that poetry could be used to rewire the brain to cure itself. In the same way that you can insult somebody and it rewires their brain to be upset or to be sad or to be mad, I said, why can't we do that with poetry? Why can't we rewire the brain with poetry to cause the brain, no less, to cure? Because the brain is the most powerful part of our brain. Did you know the brain does most of the thinking in our body? So rewire the brain to cure itself.
Okay.
And the value add is the patient walks away enlightened.
Yes.
And probably way more enlightened and feeling a lot lighter and better than if you were to just throw some pills at them or throw therapy at them.
Exactly.
Or, just giving them like a checklist to make them better.
And who likes checklists?
Yeah, Dr. London does, but he's a freak, so we're not going to even...
And I would also say, Cameron does throw medications and medical supplies at people.
Yeah, if you could refer to me as Dr. Cameron, please.
I'd feel more comfortable if you said Dr. Cameron.
Yeah, I would feel a lot more comfortable too.
So Dr. Cameron, whenever he's not speaking like metaphorically or whatever, he throws medicine and medical products, medical appliances at people whenever if anyone asks him, hey, should I see a doctor about this?
Well, I'm testing reflexes. Most doctors, they do that thing where they just sort of like, they hit a hammer on your knee.
Yeah.
I toss things at you and expect you to catch them.
Yeah, so, that doesn't really test in a sense, tests his reflexes, but it doesn't test the
I go,
the ones in the spine. So
I'll be in mid-sentence. I'll be like, okay, so how are you? And then
yeah,
they got to catch it real quick.
and then just pills thrown at your face, and you're having to, like, I've swallowed pills on accident, not realizing what was going on.
yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
very very irresponsible. You can't swallow a
And I
poem
didn't-
by accident.
That is very true. Well, unless that poem is written down, and one of the things I'm throwing at you is a wadded up piece of paper, which it is sometimes.
Okay. So anyway, to get back to Dr. Yeast, your method. So you.
Well, I did want to say on something that was said previously, in that for famous poets, we remember their poetry and we don't remember their diseases, except for the one disease that most of them have, which is depression and suicidal ideation, because most of them end up killing themselves.
Yeah, but
So that one disease comes up a lot.
that's fair.
But most of them don't. Most of the diseases don't get mentioned at all.
Have you ever taken the wrong medication for, an illness? Have you ever taken, say, an aspirin for a broken leg? I mean, think about what that would do to you.
Yeah, because I'm throwing them at myself, so I don't really know what's landing and what's not.
Yeah, I've swallowed
Exactly.
exactly. Thrown.
In the case of those very, 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 few and far between, very rare that a poet, suffered one or two of those things that you mentioned. In those cases, it was a case that their own poetry wasn't good enough for them. Because no doubt for every depressed poet, I mean, to be honest, I've never come across one myself, but for every depressed poet, their poetry has probably cured approximately 2 or 3 billion people potentially.
Yes.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I'm just, it's not an exact science, but it's think of a curve. It's like a curve graph.
Okay.
Yeah, and just how it curves around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Okay. And so,
Just watching it curve in my mind.
yeah, when you say it cures, do you mean it treats, or do you mean it absolutely cures, no trace of disease?
Completely, totally. I mean, it's like it can sense, the need for follow up. It's like a broken leg, and then you have to outpatients, afterwards, where you have to go back into the hospital as a day patient and get checked out. Poetry, the right poem, can get beyond that and see that you don't need to do that. So not only does it cure and address and remedy and all those other words that we have in our medical book, they also make things better. And that's the language patients need to hear, not cure and remedy or, make things
Yeah,
better.
Exactly.
Speak the language people want to
Dr.
hear.
London, I don't know about you. I'd like to see some of this in action.
Yeah. I was about to get to the, I know that you, Dr. Butler Yeast, you have released a few, books of poetry and on the method by which you read poems to help people. Could you share with us some of this?
I mean, I think we can, even if we're dealing with anything, like I can say right now that I have a bit of a headache. Do you have a poem maybe for something like that?
Oh, now, of course I have a poem for headache, but I don't want to be an irresponsible practitioner here. I must ask, do you have a particular type of headache that is bothering you, or is it just a general type of headache?
I assume it's because I had a lot of sugar yesterday. Right. I drank 45 hard ciders, high alcoholic ABV hard ciders, and so I think just the high sugar content is sort of giving me a headache today.
Well, and you stir in sugar whenever you take that, as I recall.
Yeah. And I do shots of vodka in it to sort of level it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have what we call physialgia. And that's
Yeah.
I suspected as much.
Yeah,
but I wasn't quite sure.
It's the common hangover as known in some parts of the world. But physialgia is what Dr. London would recognize it as, clearly. But, yeah. So that's quite simple. I mean, some people, and this is where you have to be so careful. Some people would read the works of Edgar Allan Poe or something like that as an attempt to handle it. But that's not going to work. So here's what I need you to do, Dr. Cameron. Are you sitting comfortably?
I could be more comfortable.
No, don't. Sit uncomfortably. Because right now, your inside is uncomfortable. So you need to replicate that on the outside. Because the more comfortable you pertain to try to be, it's like somebody closing their mouth when you're trying to force feed them a pill. It's just not going to go in. So you have to mirror the feeling on the outside so that your body can be a conduit to absorb the words. Because it's not just the ears we're trying to deal with here. We're trying to get it into your whole body. And while the ears are on your head, they're not connected to the part of your head that has a headache. So we need to use your whole body.
Okay, so I'm sort of wadded up into a bit of a pretzel shape now.
Yeah.
Let's,
Okay. One thing you
if
have.
I could just what? Okay, and then my arm is stuck inside of the pant leg.
So
And then
thing.
this is as uncomfortable as I can get.
One thing. No. There is one more thing. So all the people you have fanning you with the branches, you have to stop them from doing that because that's regulating the temperature. That's adding to your comfort level.
I agree. I'll spot it, Dr. Lennon.
But they only respond to me waving them away, which I can't do with my arm stuck in my pant leg.
So I guess, your inability to address this is adding to your discomfort level, right?
Not really, because I don't really care if I listen to you or follow your rules. That doesn't make me uncomfortable.
Okay. All right, well, I guess we find ourselves at sort of a standstill at this point. So
I'd love to be able to stand still. I can't because of how wadded up I am.
Yeah.
I'm a human sort of piece of gum.
I think we could work with it as it is. I mean, it's not going to be ideal. I mean, you may have a dose of diarrhea or possibly vomiting afterwards, but at least your headache will have gone. And that's, what's the most important thing here.
That's the dream. All right, can I hear a poem or something?
This is a poem, and it's simply called I sat cold step upon, of which my brow broke. Cider, ABV, Lucosade. To in which she came and ripped out my liver such that I could not take no more. I did not take no more. Across oceans filled with substances to drink would feed my demon soul, yet punish my empowered kidneys.
Oh, wow.
How's your head?
I feel relieved. Do I have to be in this position still?
You can relieve yourself of that position at a time that feels good for you, but like most things, do it slowly.
I'd say we are gonna have to get a mop for that. You did find relief in other ways as well. I guess out both ends.
Okay, I'm back into my normal position, but I do feel a lot. I mean, Dr. London, I do think there's something to this. I do feel a lot lighter and a lot better.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lighter could be because of just the volume that you just vomited. But, there could be something else. I mean, also vomiting sometimes helps people deal with the level of, alcohol. But
he said one of the side effects might be a little diarrhea and a little vomit.
Yeah, and you did do both. So, I guess side effects, you've really got down, Dr. Yeast.
One thing that was very much what came out when we went through the phase 3 trials, we discovered that we nailed the side effects. Nailed them.
Okay. So,
and I think that is one of the main things you're trying to do in a trial like that, is being able to list as many side effects as you can. it's not necessarily trying to fix the side effects. It's just acknowledging that they're there, which I think that is important, you know?
Yeah, because you're trying to get work for voice actors to list the side effects in the commercials for it.
Well, and it's a dying industry. They keep giving these animation positions to established celebrities.
Very true.
And
Very true.
And so when you think about it, being a voice actor who reads the side effects on drug commercials, that's sort of the ideal position that you'd want to be in. But anyway, I mean, Dr. Yeast, this is sort of amazing. I feel like every second that goes by, I'm feeling better and better. I mean, Dr. London, do you have any sort of ailment or something you want to bring forth?
Yeah, I mean, so I've had some. I guess I've just been stressed, so my stomach has been kind of troubling me. Like I have an upset stomach. Is there I don't know. Is there anything for that?
Yeah, you have a classic case of Boroboragim, which
Boroboragim. Okay, it's one of those across the
Boroboragim.
ponds term that I'm not familiar with.
You need to keep up on your continuous professional development, my good doctor. That is very much an affliction that affects everyone all around the world when it comes to stomach matters. So a little bit surprised that you would challenge.
I'm sorry. I mean,
because-
terminology might just be the difference. But go on.
So with a condition like that, again, similar to the headache, I have to ask, what do you think might be driving that? Is it that stress? Is it work-related stress? Is it relationship-related stress? Is it connected physically or metaphysically to the stomach problem? What do you think yourself?
Yeah, so so for one thing, work. Been working a lot of hours. It's kind of it's been very demanding lately. We sort of have an overburdened healthcare system here, and so I've been just working all the time. And then,
well, you've also been stressed lately ever since your workplace started letting people bring therapy dogs into the office, which they keep attacking you.
Yeah, and not just the dogs, because the dogs, I kind of, like, you can throw some raw meat at. So I started carrying, just raw meat in my pockets for them. But then,
You don't, wait, you don't think that maybe that's what the dogs are going for?
Oh, what do you mean? You...
Just the raw meat that you have in your pockets? I feel like that, did you start bringing the raw meat before or after therapy dogs started, for lack of a better word, hounding you?
Well, so they sent us a memo a week before these rules were going to go into effect that they're going to bring the therapy dogs because, you can't bring humans in for some of these patients because of the contagious nature of this virus. So they said, there are going to be some dogs. Don't worry about it. If you don't always get along with dogs, maybe have a treat. So I stocked up on raw meat and before, it was before, to answer your question.
So, Dr. Yeast, you can see the sort of trouble that my friend is in.
I think Dr. London, this is far more serious than you think. Think about it for a second. The notion of carrying food for a dog. Are you trying to compensate for an upset childhood by feeding other people's depression dogs, as I like to call them?
I wish, I don't want to say no because maybe, but I'm also thinking like these dogs really went after me, and I've gotten these calls that I need to be somewhere because a patient is about to die, and I'll be running, but then the dogs will outpace me, and so that has been a significant worry. But in childhood, something similar might have happened. Do we need to get into that now, or is there a poem that can is that enough for a poem?
I was around then. I do remember one specific instance. Are you talking about when you had I had set up a lemonade stand, and then to compete across the street, you would set up a raw salami stand?
Okay, well, yeah, I guess that rings a little bell. I don't really...
And then a bunch of neighborhood therapy dogs chased you down?
Yeah, well, at that time I couldn't run quite as fast, so it wasn't so much a chase as a.
You had We've talked about this in previous episodes, but at that age, you would have had the Forrest Gump leg braces on.
That's right. So and I tried to run, but once again, they were from the movie, so it was a badge of honor, really. Like, people try to make fun of it, but it's actually really cool that I did that.
Yeah, but I imagine they slow down your speed.
Yeah, and and all these dogs would come over and like just attack, and I don't, they would attack me, and I couldn't tell why. I still, to this day, I don't know why. They just target me every time, and I keep,
wow.
I'm a cat person, and that's, this experiences like that kind of reinforced that feeling that I'm a cat person.
I'm so glad you've shared this with me, and this is exactly what we're talking about here. There was a risk that I could have prescribed you the wrong poem in a romantic genre, but the fact you're a cat person, really brings it back to where it all went wrong for you, Dr. London. This isn't about stress. This isn't about stomach problems. This is about you never having a puppy when you were young. And that, in turn, caused a massive, and I don't use hyperbole that often, but a massive sphenopalatine ganglion uriology in your head.
Uriology in my head. So
I'm using the American term.
Yeah. And you're sure it's because I didn't have a puppy? Because once again, it was because I was so scared of puppies, because they would attack me and try to eat me.
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's the medical equivalent of a placebo, is what you're talking about there.
Okay. So what poem are we going to use to sort of fix this problem then? Because you are the specialist in this, so I defer to your judgment.
Yeah, so this poem, I've just been writing it out there while you were talking. I've crossed out a lot of words in it, but this poem, it's fairly hard hitting, so I need you to get really uncomfortable for this. I mean, I want you to imagine you have just had your heart broken by somebody that you love deeply, and it is dripping on the floor, being eaten by those dogs as if it was raw salami. That's how I want you to feel on the outside.
Okay, so I just think back to maybe like if there was a recent heartbreak that I could actually use, and maybe also contributed to the stress.
Yeah,
okay,
probably
so
all of the heartbreaks, all of the heartbreaks happening at once. Like all of your ex-loves are right now breaking your heart.
Okay, so and this will help me. Me bringing back all the horrific, like the time whenever she told me she would meet me, and then she instead got her gang of cronies, which happened to include our Dr. Cameron here. They came over to egg me, just throw eggs at my body, and then
I'm crying as you say that. I totally feel your pain, but unless you open up like that, the poem, the words will not connect with your upper thalamus and your epididymis and frontal lobe.
Right. All those well-connected things. So, okay. So I just have to remember the time when she said, "Meet me on the roof." And I went, and then she was on the roof and she pushed me off and said, "Try to fly." And I said, "Okay." And then I was in the hospital. I woke up in the hospital for a few months. And that's, how I got into medicine, I guess.
It's because you woke up in a hospital.
Yeah, I'd never seen one before.
You became a doctor to compensate for failed love, is what I'm hearing.
What? So I'm not feeling super comfortable right now.
Or if you're going to compensate, do it in maybe a cooler way. Not like this.
Yeah, like ride a motorcycle or listen to heavy metal or, dye your hair. Becoming a doctor is fixing other people's problems,
Yeah.
not yours.
Get a hoop earring.
Dr. London, I hate to say this, but there is a strong possibility that after I recite this poem, you may seek a career change.
As a professional motorcycle riding badass.
I mean, it's one option.
Okay, I feel like I've invested pretty heavily in the one pursuit professionally, but I maybe after the poem I'll have a change of heart.
Are you ready? You're ready. Stop! 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 Each pump of my heart beats like a stop sign. Not moving, just suddenly looking at me. So direct. Stop! 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 Reaching in and ripping out my brain and eating it. As if liver thrown to a beast. Stop! Stop! Stop. Don't touch my testicles. Don't touch my fingertips. Do not touch my soul. Stop. 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 Let me be the one who places my hand upon my brow and my other upon my heart and let in the good. Go. Go. Go.
What happened?
How do you feel?
Wow, it's almost like you woke up out of a trance state.
Yeah, I don't. What year is it?
The year now?
Yeah, what do you think I meant?
I don't know. Like, what year did radio? Were you asking like what year is it that Radioactive by Imagine Dragons came out or something?
Yes, no, that is what I meant.
I think maybe like 2011, 2012.
Okay. Well, good to know.
What's your name?
My name. I know it's Doctor. I know that.
Think again. Think again. Doctor isn't a name.
.com. I'm .com. Doctor. What's the most common? One of the most common names in the world. I'll go with that one. Smith.
John Smith.
Smith. Yes.
See, Dr.
That's
Cameron,
easy.
what's happening here is Dr. London is going through a complete personality overhaul and he's giving himself a new identity. So he's perfectly aligned to be on a new road for a better him.
Wow. And this is the sort of magic, better than medicine that is really sort of blowing my mind.
I think how many years of therapy he would have needed to get to a point like that. He probably would have had to go for hypnotherapy and possibly play therapy.
And I'm hearing this.
And maybe even surgery.
I'm hearing this sort of maybe something kind of UK British accent. So maybe my first name will be related to that. Like I don't know, what's a Dublin or no, London. I'll go for London to switch it up a little bit. So it's London Smith. Okay.
Smith because it's the most common last name.
Yeah. Just I want a unique and then common and then I should get a website.
Are you imprinting on me? Do you think I'm your mother now?
When you ask it, it feels like it'd be weird to address it.
It seems like I took a couple steps away and you took a couple steps in my direction, like almost like everywhere I move, you move closer to me.
Yeah, well, and me mirroring your actions. And I'm sorry, were we doing something here? What was
I don't think so.
No, you were doing everything. You were doing everything, London. Everything. And I must say, it was, and I'm not using hyperbole, incredible. It was truly incredible. Are you hungry?
Okay.
Are you hungry? It's a metaphorical question. It's a metaphorical question.
Okay. Because, like, I'm feeling my pockets and I feel a lot of raw meat, and I don't know if that's an answer or not.
There are no questions to which you cannot answer yourself, as somebody once said.
Okay, well,
Yeah, the famous man.
yeah, the famous man.
Yes.
I'll wait to cook this though. Like, I won't eat this raw because raw meat it seems gross. But so that's something to eat later, I guess. Whatever we were doing, I feel like we're at a good time to kind of stop doing it.
Oh, you think it's time for the chore wheel?
Chore. Yes, that does. Yes, let's do those.
Does it ring a bell? Do you want me to explain to you what the chore wheel is real quick?
If you could, because I'm not really. Yeah.
So the chore wheel, basically, and you're not going to remember this, but basically you and I accidentally let a lot of chores and a lot of jobs that we had to do pile up because we were playing video games and we weren't doing what we needed to do. So we have this gigantic to-do list that we need to finish. And so I created this fun little chore wheel, and every week we spin the chore wheel and we do whatever chore is on the wheel.
Okay.
And actually, Dr. Yeast, will you be able to stick around and help us with this chore?
I love chores.
Perfect. Okay. And then Dr. London, so you're just gonna spin the chore wheel. You're gonna grab that little thingy.
Okay, this one.
And then you're gonna pull on that. You're
Okay.
gonna pull that crank.
And do I eat it?
Try.
Okay, no, it doesn't fit in my mouth. It's too big.
All right, try spinning it instead.
Okay.
All right. Oh, you probably don't even recognize what some of these words means, but it says create content for Patreon. Oh, do you remember anything about our Patreon, Dr. London?
It was something about avoiding the parts of the podcast that
Taxes.
you hate.
We signed up for Patreon to avoid taxes. It's part of a grand scheme.
Okay.
And essentially, so we have, and this is sort of a new thing, we have a Patreon with additional content and sort of behind the scenes follow-ups to our past chores, and maybe even some follow-ups to our past sponsors and things like that you can sign up for. And you can access it by going to patreon.com/jocktalkpodcast or by going to jocktalkpodcast.com and signing up. Does that clear things up for you a little bit?
Yeah, I think it. I don't really understand what Patreon is, but okay.
Patreon's a site where you give us money so we can give you more content.
Okay.
And so right now we're gonna try to create some mini-sodes, some mini episodes, just like we're like 1 minute episodes is what we're gonna do right now. On the Patreon, they're full length episodes, like it's a full thing. But right now we're gonna do little teaser mini episodes.
Okay.
About the business of medicine and being a doctor. And so we're going to do just quick, each of us is going to host a 60-second mini episode of any sort of medical show that you like, and we're going to provide it as content on the Patreon. Does that make sense?
I think so. Dr. Yeast, are you following?
I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm game.
Okay. So maybe Dr. Cameron? Is that what's your
You want me
name?
to start off? Yes, I am Dr. Cameron.
Okay. And
I'm an osteopathologist.
Okay. I mean, I could also maybe, I don't know who goes first. How does this work? I'm sorry. I'm just very confused just from the start.
I was just thinking that each of us would go one at a time.
Right. Okay.
And
Taking
host a 1 minute, 60-second podcast episode.
turns. Okay.
To provide content for our Patreon.
Okay.
So, as an example, Here, I'm gonna do a 60-second timer.
Okay.
And hi, welcome to Cameron's Medical Cram Corner, where I'm gonna give you medical tips such as leave your feet in the pool after you swim. It'll allow your feet to keep that fun, wrinkly, soft feel, and it'll allow you to soak up some rays and soak up some of the sun more while being out of the pool. Now, my first guest today is Dr. London. Dr. London, when was the last time you kept your feet in the pool?
Oh, I can't even remember because it's winter, so for me at least. So whenever I put my feet in the pool, it is cold, and sometimes there is ice.
And there's probably a medical advantage to having your feet in such cold water, right?
Depending on how warm the rest of you is, maybe it would feel good.
And positive feelings is sort of a medical advantage. That's all we have today on Cameron's Cram Corner. Okay, I mean, I think that's going to be a perfect episode. Like, I think our listeners are going to really like that.
Yeah, if we just add some music to either side, then that's a full one, I think.
I think if we add enough DJ Dylan sound effects to that and stretch that to about an hour, we could have that be a main feed episode.
Yeah. Okay. And Dr. Yeast, do you want to give a try at hosting your own?
Sure.
Okay, let's get that timer.
All right, and go.
Hello and welcome to Doctors. I want today to tell you about the great new adaptation of talking to your family members when they are sick and they need to go talk to somebody professionally about it. The first thing you must do is talk to them about it in person or on the telephone or on an online method. And you explain to them why they should go to see somebody medically qualified. And then they go and they get seen to by somebody medically qualified. And afterwards,
15 seconds.
They will thank you for it and probably bring you around for tea or supper. That's what you should do.
5.
And if that doesn't work, tough. Try something else.
Perfect. All right.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like all of these are going to be, this is all, again, on our Patreon, it is not small 1-minute episodes. We have full real episodes. This is sort of bonus content.
Okay.
So I don't want to discourage people from not signing up for the Patreon because they think it's just 1-minute episodes that we create on the cuff.
No.
Off the cuff?
I think it is upon the cuff. Maybe about
With upon the cuff. So, Dr. London, are you ready to do your episode?
I think so. Let's get that timer.
Okay, and go.
Hi, are you a medical practitioner who lost his memory and now finds himself having to figure out how to practice medicine despite lacking all the fundamental knowledge to be able to do it? Well, this is the show for you. Try just fumbling your way through, retrace your steps. Where was the last place that you knew how to practice medicine? Hospital? Go to the hospital. Run to the hospital. You have raw meat in your pockets, and so there is a problem with that. So, when the dogs come for you, you will have to fight them off. And you won't remember much except for this new traumatizing experience with dogs. And are you reliving it again?
15 seconds.
And is this going to bring you back to that time where you had your memory erased? And is this all a vicious cycle? And what is this cruel reality
5.
that you keep stepping into?
Okay. All right, Dr. London, I gotta say, I think we've finished this chore, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think I remember everything that happened. That was weird. Okay. So on that note, thank you so much to Dr. Bill Butler Yeast for introducing us to this new approach to medicine.
Thank you so much for having me on, and Dr. London, thank you so much for being open and honest with us. I feel you've gotten about 6 million, and I'm not using hyperbole, 6 million new subscribers just on the back of you being honest. And thank you.
Wow. Yeah, I appreciate that. So, is there any way for our listeners to follow you after this, or to keep up with you?
Me, no, I tend to, as a doctor, I tend to focus on my patients. I haven't got time for such things. But I may recommend a chap I know by the name of Neil Curran, and you can find him on such social things such as Facecrack and Instaboom and Twitter. You'll find him there as Improv Neil, because he couldn't be any more creative than that in coming up with a username. You can check him on the web on lowerthetone.com, or if you're ever visiting Ireland, look us up on Improv Fest Ireland, Improv Utopia Ireland, and The Tightrope if you're visiting Dublin.
All right. That sounds great. And Dr. Cameron, I usually don't ask you, but do you have anything to promote?
Do I have anything to promote?
I know the Patreon, that's something for you, I guess.
Well, I mean, promoting the Patreon, that's sort of for everyone. It's for me, and it's for you, and it's for all of our listeners, because they are getting something out of that too.
Right.
By spending $3 or $5, depending on the tier, they're receiving a gift that they purchased.
Yes.
And that's not to be confused with a GIF or a GIF. It's not a moving picture.
No. They will not be receiving a gift from us ever.
No, and that is a policy I think we can stand by.
At least for now, I think that we should be strict about that. But I guess I would like to promote the movie Her.
Okay.
With Joaquin Phoenix. I haven't seen it since it came out, but I remember thinking it was really good. Amy Adams is in it.
Oh, okay.
ScarJo is the voice of the phone.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I'm gonna have to go on your word for it. But that's
You haven't seen Her?
Yeah, Scar who?
ScarJo?
Yeah, who's that?
Oh, this is part of your memory thing.
I get maybe there's still some gaps, or maybe I just wouldn't have heard. Anyway,
losing memory of ScarJo. Ugh, perish the
or
thought.
maybe have your chance to discover ScarJo for the first time. Who knows? All right. Well, thank you to Dr. Bill Butler Yeast again. Thank you to, for now, Dr. Cameron. Thank you to Teacher Doe in the house. Teacher Doe in the house.
I need you to get really uncomfortable for this.
Really uncomfortable.
I mean, I want you to imagine you have just had your heart broken by somebody that you love deeply, and it is dripping on the floor, being eaten by those dogs as if it was raw salami. That's how I want you to feel on the outside.
She said, "Meet me on the roof." And I went, and then she was on the roof, and she pushed me off and said, "Try to fly." And I said, "Okay." And then I was in the hospital. I woke up 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 in the hospital. My name is Dr. LondonSmith.com, and this has been the Jock Doc Podcast.
See ya.
I woke up in the hospital. 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 You hold your tongue as a scathing rebuke is delivered to your attempt at a steely blue gaze. You fail at this gaze, of course, because your eyes are green. Rather than allow yourself to be bludgeoned by the onslaught of reprimands, you do what your grandmother taught you to do from a young age. You imagine a big fish trying to put on small pants. Tee-hee! The fish isn't frustrated, just sort of clueless in an adorable way. Oh wait, the words are changing in tone. Maybe it's time to check back in. And so I hope you can understand why you shouldn't put the toaster in the microwave. It doesn't speed up the heating process, but it can start a fire. You don't really pay attention beyond recognizing when to say, because honestly, you have some fishy thoughts to get back to. Speaking of creatures performing curious tasks, don't forget to leave a 5-star review of the Jock podcast, in which you share about how you have ignored instructions to use household appliances in favor of more pleasant thoughts. And consider joining our Patreon, where we have new episodes that ditch the medical lessons to give you a hefty dose of improvised comedy. And while you're at it, go ahead and share the Jock podcast with a friend or foe. You can send them a link to your favorite episode, or just send them our handy website, jockdogpodcast.com. And don't forget to take a peek at our posts on social media. We are at Jock Podcast. Thanks for listening.